Taking a peek at the steering wheel as well as the cluster screen inside of the Genesis GV80. Well, this is the coupe version of the ride, but it's going to be the same across the board. The first thing I'm going to point out is that the steering wheel inside of the ride is going to be heated. So just down the center stack there are two different options that are available for the heated steering wheel, and it's heated all the way around. It's also going to be a power telescoping steering wheel. So down by your left knee there, you've got the flexibility of moving it in, out, up, and down to find that perfect position for you. Once you do, release, and you're set to go. There's also going to be memory, so you can get your steering wheel set up the way that you'd like to. You're going to get your driver's seat set up the way that you'd like to, your side view mirror set up the way that you'd like to, and then you can hit set in either 1 or 2 for it to remember your own personal profile. So if there are multiple people that are driving the vehicle, it's really straightforward setting that up. Then so many things that you need to know. Stick on the left-hand side is going to be for your lights. So you've got your light off mode, auto mode, and then your always on mode. Now, one thing is that when you're in the auto mode, you can't permanently lock your high beams out. It puts you into an auto mode there instead. And what that means is that if the vehicle recognizes high beams are needed, it's automatically going to turn them on. If somebody's oncoming, it's going to dim them before turning them right back on again. You can flash your high beams out, but if you want to permanently lock out your high beams, you have to go into the upper light mode, push away to turn them on, pull towards you in order to turn them off instead. So it's really straightforward from that perspective. You've also got your blinker, and then there's the blind spot view monitor. So if somebody's entered the blind spot on either side of the vehicle, you can see there. So it's going to show you in your side view mirror. So you'll have your blind spot monitor there. So that's going to highlight red, but inside of the screen there, when you hit your turn stock, it's going to also show you that. It's really neat. The default for the flashes here is 3, but through the infotainment system, you can set it to 1, 3, 5, or 7 flashes instead. Stick on the right-hand side is going to be for your wipers. So button push down, or I should say drop down once in order to go into just a single white mode. And then you can go into other options instead. In the auto mode, you could then adjust this way in order to adjust the speed. And then you can also turn on your wiper fluid by pulling towards you in order to get that wiper fluid going. The coupe version of the ride does not have a rear windshield wiper. Then you've also got paddle shifters inside of the ride. So you've got your minus on the left-hand side, plus on the right-hand side. If you've never used paddle shifters before, it's a very straightforward process. You can drop down gears this way in order to increase your speed, in order to get a speed boost, and you can also rely on engine braking this way instead. But if you've never used paddle shifters before and you want a deeper explanation of how they work, check down in the description below for a walkthrough on how that's done, but it's relatively straightforward. Down the center stack, there's also an option that you can choose between in order to get to different drive modes. There's an eco mode, a comfort mode, and 2 different sport modes, and then a unique custom my mode instead, where you can essentially through the infotainment system figure out what that mode does. But it's really neat. So eco is going to give you the best economy. Comfort is more like your normal driving. Sport is going to give you the best tuned suspension, stiffen up your steering wheel, better throttle response as well. So rather than it shifting at maybe, let's say like 3,000 RPM, it might shift at 4,000 or 5,000 RPM instead. So it gives you a much sportier performance. And then you've also got your Sport Plus, which toggles off traction control and also lets you do a little bit of a launch control as well, which is kind of cool. In order to use the launch control in the Sport Plus mode, just hit the brake and then hit the accelerator at the same time, and then all you're going to do is launch. You let go of the brake and go. It's relatively straightforward to do, but it's neat. And then you've got your basic drive modes, and then there are terrain modes, so snow, mud, or sand mode instead. Each of these modes are going to do something different. So it's going to play with your traction control, stability control, and things like that in order to give you better performance overall, just depending on the driving conditions. And then there are so many different buttons. So the one on the left-hand side here, so the ones on the outside, these are going to be for your adaptive cruise control system. So you can toggle the system on there. It says conditions not met because I'm parked. But as I go to drive, you can then hit, and that's going to essentially turn it on and set it at your current speed. So let's say if you're driving at 45 kilometers an hour, you turn it on, it's going to hold you at 45. And then you can increase or decrease 1 kilometer or 1 mile per hour at a time. You can push and hold up to get to the nearest 0, push and hold down to get to the nearest 0. So if you're at 45, it'll bring you to 50, then 60, then 70, and then down, it'll bring you to 40, then 30, etc. You can hit there in order to pause your speed. You can hit the brake to pause your speed, and then you can push in again to resume your previously set speed. And then there's a distance indicator. So it's how close or far are you away from the vehicle that's in front of you. I want you to think of that almost like a 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi type of a rule for how far away you are from the car in front of you. So if you want to actually see the system used in person though, check down in the description of this video. The other one I'm going to point out is going to be the lane follow assist. So the system itself works incredibly well. So what happens here is, as long as the vehicle recognizes the lane markings, it's going to keep you perfectly balanced in your lane. So even if you have your hands off the steering wheel for a second, it's going to keep you nice and balanced. It's a really, really good system. Not full self-driving, so you do eventually have to put your hands back on the steering wheel, but it's still really neat at the same time. So I always recommend keeping that one turned on. And then one thing about the cruise control is that it's strictly adaptive cruise. So there's no way that you can use a regular cruise control system inside of this ride. It's the only downside. From here, you've got a little pages button, and that's going to let you choose between a few unique looks. So there are different options here. But then you'll notice that you've also got the flexibility of moving up and down to different trip counters this way instead. So pages button here, you could also push in, and that's going to let you change between a few unique looks, where you can adjust out the widget along the side by moving this way, so left versus right, so you can change between your songs there. Push OK in order to adjust out your individual widgets. So if you wanted to do a turn-by-turn direction list, you'd have that available. If you want a compass view, you can swipe across in order to change out your different power views and things like that. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll kind of show you how these ones actually go as we move in. You've also got a custom button here. So pushing that is going to give you the flexibility of doing things. So do you want to cancel your route out? Do you want to go home? Whatever the case may be. There's another custom button on the outside here, and same idea. What do you want that one to do? So you can kind of customize these buttons and make them your own. There's a voice command prompt. 97.7 FM. So you'll be able to do things like change songs, radio stations, navigate using your voice, make phone calls. You can adjust your climate and a number of other things. So it's straightforward to do. If you've got your phone hooked up over Android or iPhone, so or I should say Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, you could do a longer push and hold instead, and that's going to activate. That'll activate either your Google or your Siri Assistant instead. There's a volume rocker here. You can push in the middle in order to mute. You can answer or hang up on a phone call. And then there's this swap button as well. And this one is going to let you change between all of your selected sources. So if we hop back in here for a second, there's also the mode button on the steering wheel, and anything that's selected there, you can choose between or move between. So if you had sounds of nature that you like listening to, your Bluetooth audio, things like that, as you move through, it's going to give you the flexibility of adjusting through all of those different options instead. It's really neat. So let's zoom in and I'll show you a few other things about the cluster screen. So you've got your tachometer, speedometer duo there. If you hit the pages button here, so push in, that's going to change you out to a traditional view. As you move between your different drive modes, you'll see that it's also going to tweak out the look inside of the cluster as well. In the infotainment system, you would have the flexibility of changing out your setup view, so your cluster display. You'd have the option of linking out your drive modes. So do you want it to link out to whatever drive mode that you're in? But let's say if you love the look of the sport mode, you could lock it in one way or the other. So if you love the look of the sport mode, but you love the benefits of the eco driving, you'd have that flexibility. You can adjust what content's showing up there as well. So do you want to get your blind spot view monitor, yay, nay, icy road warning, and things like that. So there are different options available there. So I'm personally a bigger fan of this setup, but that's going to come down to a matter of personal preference. You can see the gear that you're currently in, so whether that's park, reverse, there you go. Reverse, you can see we've got the forward reverse sensing system, side sensing systems there. Pop into neutral versus drive. So straightforward there, but you can see what's going on all around you. You can see what drive mode that you're currently in, what your current fuel level is this way, and then the number of kilometers till empty. Along the bottom right side is going to be your total odometer as well. And then you've got what's going on with your current page. So if we move up and down this way, you can see that it moves us between a couple of unique views. So you've got different options here. You could also then push and hold in order to get to a bunch of different driving convenience settings. So you'd be able to do things like adjust your driver's safety, speed limit assist, you get warning signs, speed limit signs, and things like that. So like I said, if you want a full walkthrough on the infotainment system, you'll find it in the description because it is a feature-packed system. A lot of different options available there. But you've got different views available. So this one's your driving assistance view. So with the adaptive cruise control system turned on, if it recognizes the lane markings, you'll notice those go green. If there are cars in front of you, beside you, etc., and your blind spot on either side, it would show you there as well. Then you've just got different looks. So it's going to be a matter of preference there. You can kind of do this little split screen look instead. And when you do, you've got a widgetized area there. And that's where this little guy comes into play. So you could Hit this if you wanted to then adjust out your widget. So you've got your current trip counters, and there are a few different counters there. So you've got your current trip. So that's from when the vehicle was last turned on for that trip counter. You've got your since refueling. So since you filled up the tank, how far have you driven? And then since your last reset. So if you've done a manual reset, so you're just going to go OK twice, and that's going to let you reset those counters instead. So anything with that OK twice on there, you just double push in order to reset it instead. So you've got different options there. Do you want to have your trip counter? Do you want to have sounds of nature on there instead? A compass view? And actually that's kind of neat. So if we have an active route going, so I'm just going to set up a route quickly here.
The route guidance will start now.
Okay. So you can see there.
Slight right and then turn left.
You've got your mapping cluster here, and then you can also see a few different views this way instead if you'd like to. So you've got more or less like your turn-by-turn directions there, just done slightly differently. You can see your power, so which wheel is getting which amount of power. You can see your tire pressure as you go to drive, your auto start-stop system, and things like that. So you've got the flexibility to customize this a little bit, just based off of your own personal preference. And then if you wanted to, you could kind of change to like a bigger mapping cluster instead, and different options there. So it's kind of neat. Like there's a lot of information here. I like how you can kind of customize things. And one other thing to point out is that there's also a head-up display. So when you've got a route going, you can see there you turn-by-turn directions. If you had the cruise control system turned on, you'd also be able to see that with the lane keeping system or centering system turned on, off, etc. If you were to cancel the route, you could see it go away. And then through the infotainment system, you'd also have the flexibility of being able to adjust this out as well. So if you wanted to, you'd be able to tweak out your vehicle settings and head-up display. You can completely disable it if you want to. You can display what's in there. So you could also adjust the height. So if you want to make it higher or lower, you've got the flexibility to do it. You can adjust the rotation if you tend to sit one way or the other, adjust the brightness, what content do you want showing up, so your turn-by-turn directions, blind spot information, and things like that. So there are a lot of ways that you'd be able to customize this head-up display in order to make it your own as well. So I know that is a lot of information, but that's everything that you need to know about the steering wheel as well as the cluster screen inside of the Genesis GV80.